Welcome to another Acoustic Alternatives podcast from Grove Studios in Ypsilanti. I'm John Bommarito. Big thanks to Grove, as always, for allowing me to have a home to do something that I really enjoy doing, and I feel like it's filling a hole in my life, and I'm really grateful that this place exists. If you are a musician, a DJ, a podcaster, and if you're looking for a place to do your thing, this is a keypad operation available to you 24/7, and you can find out more about it by Googling Grove Studios. Grove Studios? No, Grove Studios. And I always like visiting with friends that I haven't seen in a while. And, well, most of us haven't seen anybody in a long time. But Tom Butwin has been a guest on my radio program at least 4 times prior. And today, Tom is my guest on Acoustic Alternatives. Hello, Tom.
Hey, John.
Great to see you again.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me in the new home.
The new home, the home for now.
New to me, at least.
Yes,
right?
well, yeah, it's been my home for, I don't know, September or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun doing it. And let's take a look at your life after we have you do a song. What would you like to start with?
Okay. Well,
I want people to stick around. So once they hear you sing, they're going to stick around.
Yeah, just talk for 45 minutes before I play.
No.
We'll do a relative. I think I've done this one on your show, but I brought newer / older stuff. But we'll do a song called Little Bird.
Oh yeah, I do love this one because you have done this one. It's Tom Butwin on Acoustic Alternatives. Little bird, I never meant to hurt you. I knew that I would. You flew yourself right out of my view. All of the words I say could never get you out of your own way, own way. Little bird, never got to hold you. I would if I could stop myself, or I should. All of the words I say could never get you out of your own way, own way. Little bird, little bird, I never meant to hurt you. Beautiful, relatively new song from Tom Butwin called Little Bird on Acoustic Alternatives. Tom, thanks for playing that one again. I actually do remember you doing that in studio, and I loved it then.
Yeah, thank you.
Loved it now, and it's probably something that you'll be putting on whatever next project you have.
Yeah, it's recorded.
Okay.
It's just not out.
Right.
And I actually listened to it on the way here so I could remember it.
Oh my goodness. Means you recorded it a while ago.
Yeah, I recorded. It took a few go arounds with it, but the version that I think is what I thought was a demo, I think is actually just it. So
I've only heard it that way. I've never heard any fully produced versions, but it's pretty much perfect the way it is in my eyes. I mean,
it's pretty close. You're right. I mean, you're right. It is perfect now.
No.
It's just the guitar and voice is kind of all it needs.
Right.
And then the recording that I do have is it's still primarily that, but it's got some nice little ornamental things.
I can maybe hear strings, maybe.
Yeah,
A little bit.
I do. Yeah, they're not on there, but ooh, that is a good idea.
Yeah. So anyway, let's back up a little bit because that's relatively new. But you've been releasing music since 2004. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, that doesn't count the stuff that will go undiscovered from high school.
I wanted to back up to high school. Actually, what high school system were you in?
I was in the Troy schools.
Troy. Okay.
Yep.
And you're living in Rochester these days, so pretty close to where you grew up.
Yeah, just up the road.
You were bitten by the stage bug in high school. Is that correct?
Yes. If you're referring to like the musical stage.
Yes.
I was in Man of La Mancha.
Ooh.
Yes, The Impossible Dream. I did not get to sing that because I was not Don Quixote.
You had singing parts though, right?
What's that?
You had singing parts.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Oddly enough, my big song was called Little Bird.
Oh.
Totally different song.
How did we get there? But
yeah,
we
right.
did.
Yeah, there you go. But yes, I did. Yeah, kind of bitten by. I mean, I was bitten by that bug at a very young age. But I finally got to do a musical in high school, and it was a blast. And I wish it's my only regret from that period of time was not doing more of that.
I was gonna say 4 years and you only did one. Really?
Yeah, they bugged me for every year, and I stupidly didn't go for it until my senior year.
So were you already like singing in ninth grade, but didn't really try out to be?
Yeah. I was singing like the rock and pop, kind of stuff, and I hadn't really ever thought I could do that type of thing. And I don't know that I did think I could do it even after I did that show my senior year. So,
well, it took me to my senior year to stop being on stage and get enough guts to be on stage too. So I totally get it. I mean, I was just helping backstage and really loved the atmosphere and thought I would try out for at least a speaking part. So I got to play Officer Krupke, and it was my favorite memory of high school is being on stage in West Side Story, of course. And knowing that musical back and forth because I was just understudy to Doc and that. So all I had to do was sit there and listen to everybody's lines over and over.
Right.
And it was a pretty special part. So I get it. But then you started performing your own music at some point, and you took, in my mind, more of a John Mayer approach to performing as opposed to the musical stage kind of performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it took me, I personally, when I look back at my career, unfortunately, I loved John Mayer, and I got kind of obsessed with the guitar player aspect when really it took me a long time to figure out that wasn't really my bag. And it took many gigs fronting a blues trio, which I had no business fronting, running out of guitar tricks very quickly. Kind of to realize like vocals were what, I can't even hold one and not improperly use it. Vocals are really where I should have been focusing my attention and efforts, but my love for Mr. Mayer early on definitely pushed me in the more let's be a guitar hero.
I was really a guest just based on your earlier records. They had that kind of feel to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Was there other folks who influenced how you ended up writing songs and becoming a performer of your own? Yeah,
I mean, I listened to a lot of Dave Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I think I was a little bit narrow-minded during my formative songwriting years, which is cool. There's a lot of like interesting things that came up for me out of those kind of very specific singer-songwriter, early 2000, mid 90s type things. But there was a whole lot of other stuff out there I could have and should have probably been listening to. But that's, I mean, hindsight's 2020, but
it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there, there's been much more informed listening over the years to fill some of those gaping holes in my what I should be familiar with. So
the moral of the story is really you're a singer over a guitar player.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say, just over the last 6 years, it's even been singer over songwriter too.
Well, it has been a while since you've released an album of original material, which is in my notes. But I wasn't like picking on you. It's just it was more of a curiosity. I was actually going to ask about that. Yeah. So you've already covered one of the questions. Thanks a lot, buddy. Well, when you were starting to write songs, were you writing about broken hearts, or were you writing like imagined characters like the ones in the musicals you admired?
So I think I'm gonna keep laying blame on John Mayer and Dave Matthews, but no, actually not John Mayer, because his lyrics are quite brilliant most of the time. I think I listened to a lot of stuff that when I was learning how to write songs or trying to write songs, I didn't focus as much on lyrical content as I think I should have. I think it came out there are interesting things that would come out, but I wasn't really going for like a narrative or characters, or I had stuff, happening in my head, but it would be little snippets of like, here's a cool line, here's this. And, and I think that came out of listening to a lot of Dave Matthews. And it's not to say that his lyrics don't have meaning, they do, but sometimes they can be kind of disjointed and nonsensical. And maybe you think it's about one thing, but he was thinking something totally different, which is cool. And it's great. And, I go back and listen to my own early stuff sometimes, and I'm like, what was I talking about? Like, what if somebody asks me, I need to be able to explain this, so I have to make something up. But it was, I mean, of course, the broken heart thing, and this is probably all in there. But as I grew to be more educated about what you could do with a song, story wise, narrative wise, I think I realized that just, the potential, and like there's a whole piece that's like, could be so powerful combined with music and melody and arrangement and production and everything else. And, seeing shows at the Arc actually is really where that started to hit home, and wanting to play on that stage, and seeing people like Seth Gleer and Willie Porter and Ari Hest and just a myriad other amazing singer-songwriters, and just seeing the connection that they could create in that room particularly. I was like, wow, I really need to step my game up there. I'm still working on that, but I think that was a big turning point in like 2007, 8, to see that. And it's like, oh, that's how you write a song.
As one of my recent guests pointed out, though, if you don't have a hook or a melody, the lyrics are important for sure, but if it's not memorable, people aren't probably going to be paying attention to the lyrics anyway.
True. And that's kind of where I've always been too. It's such a balancing act, but I do think, because I try to assess myself as a fan and a listener, and I do gravitate towards the song as a whole, the melody, kind of the hook first, and then go to the lyrics. Mm-hmm. And my wife is like a sponge. She remembers lyrics of just everything. And it's like I have a finite amount of lyrical space in my brain. I get it. So I'm constantly purging and putting new things in there, and lyrics that I have to remember them, not just for enjoyment. So that's kind of where my brain goes. But you're right. Yeah, you got to have the hook in the melody, or else,
what is it?
Right.
Well, back to your young you, a lot of young people play guitar and sing. Not a lot of them pursue music. It's like how many kids play baseball or football and actually like follow that as a career. Not as many. Some of them just keep it as a hobby, as musicians as well. Do you remember when you decided to take it to being more than a hobby and actually record music of your own?
Yeah, I mean, it was early in high school. I mean, I remember just really, I mean, it's changed over the years, obviously, with the I mean, I had the benefit of kind of starting to do this and trying to figure out how to promote before social media, before the internet was really a thing for especially people who were independent and very young. I mean, like at that point in 2003 and 4, I mean, to record something, it's pretty hard to do on your own still. To do something decent, you had to go out and pay for studio time. But yeah, I think, wow, I just lost my train of thought. What were we
talking about? Choosing music as a career.
Oh yeah, that's going to read well in the there's a memory thing. Yeah, I mean, early on, I was interested in, I remember putting together concerts and shows and kind of hitting the pavement, back in high school with just burning CDs on my own and, wanting to do, wanting to do music as a career for sure. I always had a very specific idea of I want to be very in control of what I'm doing artistically, and I don't want to feel like I have to do it, which kind of steered me. I mean, because I realized at some point where it's like, okay, well, to be, that's a pretty big ask, to be able to make a living playing music, but also to not have to take every gig that comes your way just to survive. And I was like, well, I need to be either so successful and huge that I can do that, or maybe someday I'm gonna have to supplement this with something else so I can, not have to take every wedding gig in the world and that's not to say that, I mean, I did that for a long time, and there's certainly nothing wrong with it. I would say I'm not a good enough musician to be that guy that you're going to call to play guitar on something, you know. So I didn't have a hope to be, you know, as successful as some people being a musician like that. I was banking on, you know, writing songs that people would like enough to make me money, you know. So knowing that's a very difficult thing to do, you know, I kind of made that decision early on, but that's not to say that I was like opting for plan B or anything right off the bat. It was just tried to be, I knew how hard of a road it would be, and I never wanted it to go away. So, and it still hasn't gone away. Okay. I always wanted it to be there, and more than just a hobby. And again, I don't want to be disparaging to anybody who plays or sings as a hobby, because it's an amazing thing to do. But, you know, I've always saw myself as having maybe two, well, depending on what part of my life, but, you know, certain points, two careers, you know, performing and whatever I'm doing to keep myself from having to play a 4-year-old's birthday party.
There you go.
Which I've done.
Well, I actually reviewed a couple of our previous interviews, and I'd said something about this before, and so I know that it's okay to say again, but your first couple of records were fine, but then you got to a point where, like, okay, you matured in your songwriting, you were more confident, and you sounded really good. So I'm happy to see that the progression has continued, and the song that you just played was a good example of how your writing, to me, is getting a lot better than it was on those first 2 records.
Yeah.
Which is like any job. You go to a job, you better get better at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would like to hear what else you have written, another song perhaps, another one that you've written since I last saw you.
Let me do, this is an interesting one. And so I brought 2 tunes that I've actually, to my knowledge, I've not played anywhere.
Except your basement?
Basement, studio. This one, I think I did do, this one I'm about to do. I think I did at a show. I've played in New York City a couple times.
No big deal.
Sorry. Not a brag by any means.
No, I know, but it's nice to be able to book a gig in New York City.
Yeah, one show was actually very well attended, and I was blown away. And then the next time when I came back to Rockwood Music Halls, where it was, nice. I think there was maybe one person there.
Oh.
So, they were very nice there, though. They were great. But so this song, I think I'm calling it "This City." This only exists in a voice note. But outside of playing it at that one New York City show, I don't think I've played it anywhere else, and it's changed. So,
well, thank you for the honor.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it here. I'm gonna try to do it justice. We'll see.
This city never sleeps. Our heart is thinking in leaps. From the Lower East Side, pearls catching fire, she's finally starting to breathe. What if the walls folded down? Would she still love this town? Oh, let's see. Baby, follow me. So come out tonight and save me. Just turn out the lights and change me. We can throw it all down like there's nothing left to lose. I don't wanna see you start to move till last call in the city. City streets tell a blinding story. Subway steamers crawling into me on a rooftop bar. It helps her see so far. She's finally following me. All day she watches her feet, crossing over spots where they used to meet. Radio City's never far. It makes her think of Christmas and walking by the water. What if the walls folded down? Would she she still loves this town. Oh, let's see, baby, follow me. So come out tonight and save me. Just turn out the lights and change me. We can throw it all down like there's nothing left to lose. I don't wanna see you start to move until last call in this city. Oh, 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 no. Oh, oh, no, no, oh, oh, oh. So come out tonight and save me. Just turn out the lights and change me. We can throw it all down like there's nothing left to lose. I don't wanna see you start to move. Yeah, so come out tonight and save me. Just turn out the lights and change me. We can throw it all down like there's nothing left to lose. 'Cause I don't wanna see you start to move until last call in this city.
Nice. I would actually call that this city for sure. Yeah. New music from Tom Butwin on Acoustic Alternatives. Thanks for being able to play that without like being self-conscious about it.
Yeah, well, I figured, I could have come in and done some safe choices.
No.
Not that I have hits,
What's
but
the point?
things that I'm more comfortable playing. But I was like, no, you know what? You've pushed me. Pushed me, not knowing it. I don't. Maybe you do know it, but like, because I sent those first two records you mentioned. Yeah. I sent them to you, and you gave very honest feedback.
I was still at WHFR back in those days. If I remember correctly.
And I really appreciated it. I mean,
they were good. They just weren't as good as this and hereafter. It was that was a leaps, bounds and above what you were doing.
Thank you. And it was good because, I mean, there's a lot of things pushing me at that time, and you were definitely one of them.
Thanks.
Which I do appreciate. And I'm like, well, I need to push myself a little bit when I come do this podcast.
Well, there you go. I'm glad that I can inspire you in any way, shape, or form. I admire your talent, and I appreciate your friendship for sure.
Same here.
I don't think it was me, but was there a person in your life that encouraged you early on to continue making music and you were a kid? Because again, I mentioned there's a lot of kids that play guitar, but not a lot of people who continue doing it after a certain point. Yeah,
I've always, like I said, I'd never want it to go away. Whatever capacity I'm doing it, whether it's, singer-songwriter, just playing cover gigs, doing musicals, recording, I always want it to be here. But yeah, early on, as many people do, I started with piano lessons, and my parents, they're incredibly supportive. They encouraged it, but I mean, my sister and I both took to piano lessons, and it was really from, as I'm told now, because I was probably about 5, I want to say, which is early, but I mean, we were excited. I know I was excited. I mean, there's the occasional like, hey, you need to practice. Hey, it's time for a lesson, and I don't want to go, but overall, it was always something that, I mean, I remember going to the piano store with my parents and just being fascinated. I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have one of these. Like, this is amazing. Like, and I get to learn how to play it, and I never became a great piano player I can play, but that's where it started. And I mean, they were always very encouraging, still are. But yeah, I mean, without that, I don't know that I'd be doing this. Right
so
now.
Your parents are the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Hope you're watching.
Absolutely.
Well, you've tackled a few challenges in your career for sure. 2013-ish, you forced yourself to write a new song every day for 2 weeks, and that turned into what I think was your highlight of your original material so far.
Yeah.
Were they all keepers? Did you put them all on the record?
No.
Okay. You were also working a full-time job at this time in between.
I was, yeah. Those were, so I mean, that's, and that's the thing. Like I did that because as songwriters, you have to finish songs, or else you're not really writing songs. And it's when you don't have a record contract where I have to fulfill 3 albums in a period of time. Right. I mean,
do it for yourself.
Yeah, I'm doing it for myself, and there's certainly people that are interested and want to hear what I'm doing, but there's not a lot of hard deadlines. That's why I did that, because I kind of proved to myself, and I do go back to that mentally often in saying like, I had a lot going on, but I managed to, for 2 weeks straight without missing a day. And I think it might have been like 2 weeks and a couple more days, write a song every day, front to back, whether it was good or not, and just finish it, and I did, and it turned into a record. I didn't necessarily plan on that happening, but
it worked out.
Yeah, it did work out. And it just kind of proved, it's like, even if you've only got 15 minutes, just get something down. I mean, it might be a jokey kind of thing, but it's just the exercising of that and really completing something. That's the plight of all of us. I think anybody you'd have in here would probably agree that it's just hard to complete things.
I bet. I don't write songs. I don't know. I've written poems, but not songs.
It's similar though. It's similar though. I mean, at what point is it done? I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm not really done saying what I want to say.
Right.
Did you have a backlog of subjects to tackle when you started that project? Did you come into that going, I got all these things I want to write about?
Yeah, there were a few things that I really wanted to, sometimes I look at songs like little gifts that I get, or not gifts, but something like, it's hard because like you buy something and you're like, oh, I got this new phone and I'm really excited about it. And I bought it and now I get to use it, or I got a new camera or a new car or whatever. But songs are like that like when you do complete one and you're happy with it, I mean, it is better than anything you could possibly buy, and it's, I had little ideas like, I want a song that's like this. And it wasn't necessarily like somebody else's song. A couple of them were that way. It's like, I want a song that's like I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. Like, I want that. And then I tried, and I came up with a song called Harmony, which doesn't sound anything like on Fire.
It's a darn good song.
Thank you. But there's things like that. Then there were subjects that I wanted to hit, and a lot of which I did. Some I didn't. But yeah, it was. And I did not go into it with like a safety net. And I just noticed your shirt.
I was going to get to this. You're ahead of me, so hold on.
I will. But I didn't go into it with a safety net because I think I actually did this with a great friend of mine to keep myself honest. Is we would both write songs separately with one another, but we had to submit them to one another at the end of every day, a recording of it and also a written or typed, emailed version of the lyrics. So that way we could both have someone to answer to.
Would you do it again? Would you force yourself to say, write a song for 2 weeks?
I think I would.
Good.
I think I would. I thought about it. I'm writing things in a different way now. But I feel like we're doing something chronologically, so I won't go there yet. But yeah, I think I would. Yeah.
Well, then chronologically, yes. You've noticed the shirt, which inspired, the shirt choice was actually inspired by something you did.
Okay.
Which was 52 covers. Now, Ari wrote 52 original songs, Ari Hest. And that inspired you. I know a couple other people had done it and inspired you, but you decided to consider picking some of your favorite songs and covering them. Why?
It was a few reasons. One, I wanted to kind of beef up my internet presence. And
you've got over 1 million views total, right?
Well, on the channel, I think it's like 3 million views, which is... It sounds like a lot. I mean, in the grand scheme of YouTube, it's nothing, but it's fine.
For a non-touring musician, that's not what you do for a living. That's pretty good.
It's okay. But I wanted to beef that up a little bit. Content, when I did that, I think it was 2015 or 16, 2016.
2016.
Yep.
In my notes, it says so.
It is 20. Your notes are probably better than my memory. But I one, to do that. Two, I mean, you're just creating promotional material.
Mm-hmm.
But three, you mentioned Ari Hest, and he did 52 covers, and I mean, like
originals.
I'm sorry, not covers, originals, which is an unbelievable achievement. I know there's been a few other people who've done it as well, and I didn't believe in myself quite enough to be able to do what he did. But it was certainly that project inspired me, and another long commitment to something. That 2-week deal was private, so if I had failed, it wasn't being broadcast out to anybody. But once I announced the 52 covers thing, I mean, you're kind of committed, and
now I'm looking for them.
And people did start to look for them, and I got some great opportunities from that, even years after I finished it. So yeah, I mean, it really was just another exercise, but with filming things and editing and recording and everything else. And that one I did give myself a little bit of a pad with like, I think 5 or 6 videos in the bank, which quickly ran out.
Well, did you have a couple that you were the most proud of during that time? Like, as you look back on this project, would you say, oh man, these are the ones I'm really proud of. These turned out great.
Yeah. There were a few, and I'm trying to remember right now which ones those might have been.
No pressure. It's okay. I'm just curious.
Yeah, there was, well, I'm on Fire. I did I'm on Fire, and the Springsteen song. I really like that one. I did Human Nature, Michael Jackson song. I liked that one. There were a few, I kind of call myself out, but at the same time pat myself on the back. There were a few musical theater tunes that snuck in there, and it was kind of cross promotion from, because I was crazy enough to do 52 covers and put out a musical theater album at the same time.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
But so a few of the weeks were actually clips or songs from that album, which was good and bad. I think I could have, if I had recorded them specifically for that project, it probably would have been better, but it was good because that was about midway through and I had started to generate some attention from the cover project, which translated over to the album, which was nice. But yeah, there were a few on there that were not terrible.
You had considered, when we spoke about it years ago, putting them out some of them out, not all 52, but out as a record. Is that still something that's on your list of things to do? Because it was then.
It was, and I knew you were going to ask me about that.
Sorry,
no,
because you said you were going to do it. I want to see if it's
and I do go back to it, and I go back and I listen, and with the intention of pulling the sessions up and putting them out. But that was, where are we at? 5 years now? 4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And, I've grown. I think the biggest thing for me is I've grown as a vocalist in that time. And there's some performances on there which are really good, and I really like them. And I would consider doing that. I wouldn't put all 52 out.
No. I would expect you to.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe 15.
Yeah. 10. I don't even know if it'd be that many. I don't know.
The best ones. The ones that got the most views, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's always a surprising thing, is what I thought was going to get, views ends up not being.
Don't let your fans tell you what the best ones are.
Yeah, exactly.
Choose the top 12. Then.
Yeah,
put those records.
I'll have to go listen to those again. Because the last time I did it, I went and listened, and I said, no, that's not where I am right now. I don't feel like
It might make a viable product to sell when you can start playing shows in front of people again.
True.
It's something that people will want to pick up, because you're doing at your shows a combo of covers and originals anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So it might be a nice little additive to the merch table.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Yeah. I like
John, trying to help you out.
Well, you have. You do.
I know. Well, I don't know that would have caused any fear of you turning into a covers artist, because you still do write original music. You've just played me too. Did that ever cross your mind? Like, gosh, if I do this, then people are going to think I'm only a covers artist.
Yeah, I mean, that did cross my mind. I guess sometimes I'm confused. What I worry about is am I in too many different worlds to be effective as an artist? I'm in the musical theater world, and I've garnered some attention for that. I'm in the original world, singer-songwriter-y type thing, and I'm have had some points at my career where I've gotten some attention for that. And then I do a lot of covers too. And
at bar gigs, people want to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because sometimes it's just you don't have a choice if you're going to play out certain places. So sometimes I worry about like the sector of my fan base. I guess we can call it fan base. Like if you're here for Broadway stuff, like you might not want to hear me play my own stuff. Yeah, my own original music, or you might not want to hear a pop or rock cover. Maybe you do want it. For me personally, I'm interested in stuff like that. I'd love to hear people who do different things, but I do know that sometimes it's off-putting. Rod Stewart shows up with a Standards album, and people who want to hear Maggie May are upset.
And then he does 3 of them, and then he goes back to doing other stuff.
Right, and I love that. Like I think it's great.
He did a fine job.
So so I wasn't really ever worried about like being pigeonholed, but I think I was just more worried about people not getting it. If they're there for one thing and they're like, wait, what? I thought he was going to do some Phantom of the Opera. Why does he have a guitar? What is this all about?
Well, you do have a guitar and you have original music. And after you're done taking a drink, I would love to hear what else you brought and prepared for me today.
Well, this one could be interesting. This.
Are you afraid? It's just me.
A little bit.
It's just me.
This one was an attempt to, and actually this was one from the songwriting, 2-week songwriting thing that did not make it.
Oh, look at that.
But it was my attempt at sort of a country-ish song that was very on the nose with a story. And I'm just trying to remember if this was real or if it was just totally made up in my head. And it most of it's made up. The actual story is made up. But I think somebody told me about somebody else. It was definitely second or third hand where they knew somebody who had just met a guy and they were moving to, I mean, in the song it's Alaska, but somewhere far away. And everybody was like, what are you doing? That's crazy. Why would you just met this person. What, are you going to move away with them? Like, that's crazy. So I was like, oh, wow, what can I do with that? That sounds interesting. I want to write a story. And then one of the days I sat down and I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And I remember it was in the apartment I was living in at the time. With my roommate, I actually went into my closet and shut the door, which I wasn't doing because I didn't care if you heard what I was writing. But this one, I was like, it was so unlike anything I had done that I was like, I am going to go as far away as I possibly can and bury myself amongst all of my clothes and socks here to write this. So I'm going to see how this goes. I haven't done it.
Does it have a title?
This one, it doesn't, I don't think.
Maybe I'll come up with one while you're
saying. That's so this is very unlike anything I do. So it's probably why I won't ever really see the light of day beyond here, but it'll be a fun one, I suppose. Am I allowed to swear on this? Okay. I won't. It's nothing egregious, but
she works a job, he sits at home and he asks her to get him beer and cigarettes every day. They're moving out up to Alaska to work the land, at least that's what he said. They think she's crazy for going with him. And people say she'll probably wind up dead. But it's okay, 'cause she knows his weakness. It's a good drink and a beautiful woman in his bed. Hitched the trailer and packed all their shit up. They hit the road, they left nothing behind. It's 3 days and 2 hours of driving, but on the way the thoughts start to cloud her head. They think she's crazy for going with him. People say she'll probably wind up dead. But it's okay, 'cause she knows his weakness. It's a good drink and a beautiful woman in his bed. Oh, they left their there's nothing, and a friend started calling. There ain't no one around to hear those sounds coming from his mouth after she shot him with his own gun. She won't worry about him now. But they say, oh no, she's crazy for going with him. She never planned on him winding up dead. And when the cops came, oh, to arrest her, she said her name and could finally rest her head. Oh, she said her name and could finally rest her head.
That is not a throwaway. That's a good one.
Oh,
It's called The Road to Alaska. That's what I think.
love
it's
it.
called.
Done. Titled.
You like it?
I do.
All right, there you go.
I do.
Because that's where I kind of went in my head when you
Yeah.
told me the pre-story.
Yeah.
It's nice, and it is a little bit country, but not like
That's
I wouldn't.
not, I mean, if I
wouldn't-
put the drawl on it, I could. She worked, you know.
No, don't do that because that's not you. But be genuine you, and I think that's a keeper. Keep that one.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun one.
like
It's you know, as I got to the bridge, which I guess we should call it the bridge, which is supposed to be like the surprise where she shoots him.
Murder ballad. It's a murder ballad.
Yeah, exactly. I could probably be more effective there, but you know, that's the lovely thing is that I can rewrite that part if I want to.
I like it. Well, technically, that's an older song because you wrote that one at the same time you wrote this and Hereafter.
It is. That's a real old one. Yeah,
So it's been since 2013 since you've released an album of original material.
that is true.
And we've danced around the fact that you've released theater album, EP and album. And actually, your most recent release is a live version.
It is.
Is from the Baldwin Theater, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's, I mean, if I'm going to promote something,
Yes.
I suppose I should promote my latest record, which is Brushes with Broadway Live, which, as you said, does have a bunch of theater on it. But, you know, kind of going back to what I said about like, what do people want or expect from me? I mean, if you go to the album, it's not all stuff from theater.
Dream On, Aerosmith.
Yeah,
right?
Dream On from Aerosmith is on there. Viva La Vida by Coldplay is on there.
Not theater songs.
Not theater songs by any means. New York State of Mind by Billy Joel.
Technically is.
Yeah, it technically is.
If you go to the
jukebox musical. I would argue that his music is I mean, it would fit perfectly in the theater.
So story
Yeah,
oriented.
you
Yeah,
know,
no, great stuff.
So, but yeah, that's the latest release. I've had three theater releases in the last, well, since This and Hereafter, which was the original album. There's the Brushes with Broadway that just came out, an EP of Jesus Christ Superstar songs, and then the album I kind of alluded to that I put out during the 52 covers thing called A Different Stage, which was like the first foray into recorded theater music. So that's been the last 6-7 years.
And getting a chance to play Jesus as the main character.
I did, yeah.
And that probably inspired your, maybe I should do a little bit more of this.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I really wanted to document, the big song Gethsemane. I wanted a studio version of that because I had a very specific idea of what I wanted my version of that song to be, because that musical, like, it's I would argue it's one of the most perfect, if not the perfect musical for a rock singer to come in and join that world, because the score itself has, there are literally sections where it just says ad lib, and a lot of these iconic moments that exist on recorded versions of Jesus Christ Superstar, you go to the music and that's not written there. That's Ted Neely or
Ian Gillan.
Ian Gillan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Deep Purple singer was the
yeah. So, those are choices that they made, and then it's cool to me to be able to step in and do that, because most musicals are not like that, you know. And coming from a world where, like I said before, I love Dave Matthews Band. Every show's different. every set list is different. Every song when they do it has some different element. You can't really do that in theater when there's lighting cues. And I had to learn that very quickly the hard way when there was kind of it wasn't really a fight scene, but Jesus comes into the temple at one point, and he's angry due to the blasphemous activities happening there. And I had to swing the stick around angrily at people. And the first couple of times we did it in rehearsal, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to do it a little different every time, and we'll just kind of play off of each other. And like, if you're literally swinging a very large stick as hard as you can, the 30 people around you need to know where you're going to be and when you're going to be there.
That's a good point.
Which the director quickly reminded me, like, hey, this is not jazz improv here, okay?
Don't take my cast out with your staff.
Sing some funny notes every once in a while if you want, but don't swing the stick in an improvisational manner. But so given that the music director was great, and she took a lot of my ideas because I went deep on that. I listened very intently to every recording that was out there and every bootleg I could find, and wanted to find my version of it. Taking cues from, of course, the iconic stuff. And I think there's a studio version, which is great. I'm really happy with how that came out. But the live version that's on this most recent record, I think is it. Because it was actually recorded on the same stage that I did the show. And I never thought I would be able to do that song again there. But I got to, and we caught a really good performance of it. The band was really, really on point for that. So, yeah.
2 things about that. One of them you're not going to like. One of them you will like.
Awesome.
When I told my wife, I'm interviewing Tom Butwin today. Oh, Hot Jesus. So that's the one you're not going to like. Hot Jesus was the nickname they gave you.
Yes, it still follows me everywhere.
Great. I bet you're embarrassed by that. The other one was your version of "Could We Start Again, Please?" Makes me want to weep. You do a beautiful version of that.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you. That was a song I did not get to sing in the show.
No, but you've done it for me.
I have,
and I have a recording of it.
Yes. I'm happy you have a personalized one.
Yeah.
I love that song. Caitlin and Justin were the 2 actors who did it in our version of the show, and they were just. Luckily I had the ability to listen at that point in the show, because a lot of times I was running around doing something else backstage, getting prepared for the next scene. But at that point I was able to listen, and that they just blew me away every time I heard it. And it is it's a really beautiful song.
I somehow missed it from its early days.
Yeah,
and when you sang it, it hit me. It just hit me.
Yeah.
Sometimes songs do that, right?
Yeah,
they hit you in the heart in a different way.
Thank you. And it's one of those things where, I don't know if Andrew Lloyd Webber did anything better than that.
I don't know.
It's his first one, and I'm like, man, it started strong. You set the bar pretty high for that whole show. But yeah,
debut albums from other artists have done the same.
But, true.
That's a whole other topic. So there hasn't been a heck of a lot of original material released, 0 in fact, since 2013. How much has been written since 2013?
A lot, and it's changed. It's hard because it's like where my heart and head is not always where the public stuff that's coming out is. Sure. It's been pretty consistent over the last 6 years because I've been so entrenched in the theatrical world. I've really, what has been on my mind and what I've been wanting to work on and wanting to put out there has been very much.
You immersed yourself in it because that's the only way you could be successful.
Correct.
Do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have just been like, I'm just doing this for
2014-ish. I started very seriously taking vocal lessons, and then into 15 started to record a different stage, which was really just supposed to be piano and voice for myself. I never intended on putting it out, and then things started to go well, so we added strings and a whole bunch of other things, and it became an actual album. But it was it for a long time, and I really wanted to do a show, and Superstar came up, and I started preparing for that. I prepared for that for probably a year and a half, with the intention of getting that role, and I somehow did. But that was it. But it as I kind of moved, I'm not moving out of that by any means, but
You're also not abandoning the singer-songwriter.
No, I miss it. Because for a long time I didn't miss it. I was like, this is what I felt like I'd found what I should be doing finally.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And I remember saying to myself, like, I like, there was maybe the first or second night of Superstar. We finished the show and I loved it so much, and I was not nervous. I felt like I belonged in that, not necessarily role as Jesus, but in that role, in that setting, artistically. And I really, when I look at on paper, I should not have been comfortable there. You know, I'm not an actor really by trade. I've limited experience in musicals. But I felt so at home, and I think it came across in the performances. And then I would compare it to original shows that I was doing, and I've been doing that for 20 plus years, and I felt out of my skin sometimes in those, like more maybe as an imposter. I felt like, you know, I was like, oh, I shouldn't be up here. I shouldn't be doing this. Like, they're going to see right through me. These songs aren't any good. Like, you know, that kind of stuff going through my head a lot of times when I'm doing these original shows. And I'd never felt that when I was doing that show. And then a lot of the theatrical stuff I did afterwards, I just felt so at home. And I think that's what kind of put me into that direction. It's like, well, this is where I belong. This is what I should be doing, you know? Okay. But at the same time, I love pop music. I love rock. The type of theater that I gravitate towards is more of that type of stuff. You know, but so kind of going back to, you know, I'm playing these songs for you. I've got a theater album, a live theater album out that I'm trying to promote. But as I go and I sit in my little project studio at home, I'm writing these like very current sounding 80s pop inspired songs. And I'm really excited about those. Good. And but it's like, you know, it's like then I sit down, like, I got to work on the promotion for Brushes to Broadway. Like, in between all the other stuff, you know, and it's two totally different worlds, you know. And then I get back into the worry of like, well, geez, like I look at my analytics on YouTube, and so many of the people are there for my musical theater stuff. It's like, well, if I drop a, you know, 1975, the band, not the year, you know, sounding kind of thing, like, are they going to be interested in that?
But your fans that knew you before that would be.
They probably would.
So don't discount either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it's cool. I mean, it's they're being written. They're nearing. I think this year there will be a couple singles. That's my goal.
Was the theater experience something that would influence the kind of songs you're writing? Are you writing more character songs instead of personal feeling songs then? Because you've been playing a character on stage, in a sense. When you're singing something from a musical, you're trying to embody Circle of Life. You're a lion.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it would. And when I sat down and every year I write out like kind of a goal list of things that I want to do and achieve musically, artistically. And when I started to write down like what I wanted to do, well, 2020 got a little bit weird. I think is the note for that one's kind of a mix of 2020, 2021, but
everyone's got a little asterisk.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's
nothing unique there.
Some people wrote a lot of songs, some people wrote no.
Yeah, I am okay with both of those outcomes. But I thought it would be more in I envisioned, and this still may happen, a Josh Groban-ish type of album where it's original songs, maybe some choice covers, but that feel with strings and you know, it's kind of staying in that same world. But then I started to write, and it went this totally opposite direction of almost needing a break from that stuff, you know. And that's kind of where I am now. But I do want to go back to that because I think that it would be probably a smart promotional decision. But also I love singing like that. Sure. You know, it's really nice to be able to sit down and just do this, you know, relax. It's not challenging for me to hit those notes. I can really think about the lyrics and just kind of have fun with it. But at the same time, it's really nice to be like, okay, well, I'm going to exercise the upper register of my tenor range on this, you know, this song from Les Mis and really work on my technique and that kind of thing. So I think it's a it's a good balance. I feel fortunate. I mean, I always joke about my theater albums as the albums nobody asked for.
But they're good. Don't worry about it. They're
but
good.
So it's like I feel fortunate to be able to just do this in any capacity that I get to do it. So
Well, you've done a good job doing it. I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask, because you've received a fair amount of TV and radio coverage over your career. Have you been your own agent, essentially? Have you booked all of those things yourself?
I'm it. You're looking
You're
at it.
You're the whole team.
I'm the whole team,
Wow.
with the exception of, I could go through the liner notes of each record.
Well,
and
we don't have time for that.
I know, right? 3.5 hours later. But I do a lot of, at this point, I record all my own vocals. I engineer all my own vocals. I do all the edits, comping on my stuff. I mixed Brushes with Broadway, this live record. I mixed A Different Stage. The rest of them I've recorded. The more recent stuff recorded, and then kind of given to other people, which is probably the best way to do it, to have someone else mix. But yeah, I'm it. I'm kind of one man show, editing video, with the exception of the video that goes along with Brushes with Broadway. It's my good friend Thomas Butcher who had a crew who did that. But yeah, I've been lucky and fortunate to have some decent attention,
Well deserved. Before we wrap it up with one more song, I want to acknowledge, because you've got videos essentially for every song from that show on your website, and they're beautifully done. But your band, you really chose wisely. Let's give them a little love. Talk about who's playing with you on that stage, because there's some great people on that
You're
stage.
absolutely right. I mean, really, quite frankly, anybody could, put in any male singer, theater singer, and they're gonna, in that show, would be perfectly fine. You could take me out of it, but the band is incredible, and the band really came out of a new show that I was asked to work on, and I'm still involved with, and I had the opportunity to workshop it in New York City. It's called Bonhoeffer the Musical, and when we were doing some of the early showcases of just the music here in Detroit, Lake Orion and 20 Front Street was the first time I did that publicly. Much of the band that I put together for Brushes with Broadway was on that project, and it sort of happened all at the same time. So their music director, Dale Gryza, played keyboards.
Great musician.
Yeah, phenomenal musician, phenomenal guy. He's become a great friend. Without him, Brushes with Broadway would not exist. Writing arrangements. We had a phenomenal, probably one of my two favorite drummers in this area, Quentin Joseph, who's played with Mayer Hawthorne and just a ton of other great projects. Takashi Io on bass.
Premier bass player around.
You can't get much better than him. Brian Lord on the guitar.
Another great one.
Let's see, I'm going across the stage in my mind. A good friend of mine, Kevin Irving on cello, who is also on A Different Stage and on This and Hereafter as well. Sonia Lee on violin, who is, I have no business being on stage with someone.
No offense, but you might be right.
She's so good. She's just such a wonder. All of them are just such humble people and phenomenal musicians. And, when I say I mixed that album, I mean, I didn't have to fix anything.
No.
I mean, it was, most live recordings are not really live, and you got to tighten things up. But I mean, they just nailed everything.
I was in the audience, so I know.
Yes,
I was in the back of the.
Yeah, and I should mention Nancy Ingalls was my main guest vocalist on the record, so she's featured, I think, 4 or 5 times on there, and who's just another she was actually on the Jesus Christ Superstar tour with Ted Neely.
Nice.
I believe they played the Fox Theater on that run. This is probably late 2000s. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, just a band,
incredible collection of people.
I wish that I could just sit and listen to them play and not ruin it with my singing.
Cut it out. You're a fine singer. Cut it out.
So yeah, but they are. I mean, without them, none of that would be possible. And they just brought their A game, and it was so humbling, and so it was my honor to have them there and have them really like be into the project too. You know, they were, they're hired musicians, and that's what they do, and they're, that's what they're good at. But I mean, like it's really cool when you get people who you look up to musically who say, oh, this is a really cool project, I'm really excited about it, and thank you for having me. I'm like, thank me, like thank you, like what are you talking about? So
is this a release that's physical or digital only?
This is only digital.
Okay, so they can find it on your website.
Website. I mean, it's everywhere music is streamed and sold these days. But that's different though, right? I mean, when I first started, it was all about CDs. Yeah, well. And now look where we are.
I always like to try and direct people to the spot that you get the most income from. So is tombutwin.com the best spot for them to purchase that from, so you have the most slice of the pie, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're gonna be technical about it, I believe Apple Music is probably the best. But I mean, my YouTube channel is a great place to support me as well. Okay. Subscribing and watching all those videos, covers or otherwise. And like you mentioned, the whole album is on YouTube with the visual component too. Sure. So if you like it that way, by all means. Can't
play that in my car though. Sure. All right. What would you like to wrap up our session with? And thank you for all the stories.
God, thank you for letting me talk. I mean, we've done these 4 or 5 times, and they're generally for radio. You're short. Yeah, you're a little more constrained as far as being able to speak. So this is really great, and I really appreciate it. And you're welcome. It's awesome. I think appropriately, I'll play a song called "Leaving Song."
There we go. Tom Butwin's been my guest today on Acoustic Alternatives.
Break the water, feel your feet on the bottom sinking in. Climb the ladder, pull yourself out, realize you're never in too deep. Sunrise, sunset, we haven't hit the end just yet. Come away, sing this leaving song with me. Come away, sing this leaving song with me. Summer's here, feel the wind off the water rushing in. Hear the singing in your sleep, realize you're never in too deep. Sunrise, sunset, we haven't hit the end just yet. Come away, sing this leaving song with me. Come away, know this story's short but sweet. It's obvious when the day's done, what we did will always live on. Oh, it's obvious when the war's won, we should have spent more time on fun. Come away, sing this leaving song with me. Come away, know this story's short but sweet. Come away, sing this leaving song with me. Come away, know this story's short but sweet. Oh, sunrise, sunset, we haven't hit the end just yet. Come away, Sing this leaving song with me. Come away, come away. Know this story's short but sweet.
Tom Butwin on Acoustic Alternatives. Tom, thank you so much again for being here.
John, thank you.
Good to see you, and I look forward to hearing more of the stuff that you've been working on quietly in the house and keeping under wraps, and we'll talk about it again another time, I hope.
Awesome. I would love to.
Presumably the next guest on Acoustic Alternatives is going to be one of my favorites from the national music scene. Liz Longley is expected to join me, so looking forward to that. Tom, thank you again, and we'll be back with another Acoustic Alternatives from Grove Studios.